Space, the final frontier. This is the voyage of one YouTuber SXE Blues to take a look at some of his favorite, most notable scenes in all 11 of the Star Trek films. And hope you will boldly go with me on this little journey down Star Trek memory lane, because Star Trek, like Doctor Who, is one of my favorite things out there. I've been interested in Trek since I was really young, and while I gravitate mostly toward the original series, the films, and Enterprise, I still love a lot of aspects, though haven't seen a lot of, or rather haven't seen everything of some of the other TV series, but I've seen the movies many times, and I just wanted to, this is inspired by a friend on YouTube who did some top 5 moments of Star Wars and Harry Potter. Again, thumbs up to him, Mr. Nero Zero, and they were great moments that he referenced, and I really digged those. So what I wanted to do was do one for Star Trek, and as I say, hope you'll boldly join me on this little retrospective, sort of. I made some notes about the moments I'm going to mention, but I'm going to be going unscripted as I usually do, just off the top of my head. So forgive any discrepancies in my, somewhat flummoxed at times memory. But jumping right into it, we start with the first Star Trek film, the motion picture, and I've got 6 notable scenes from this movie that are very easily recognizable, and the first being the very early in the film, what I like to call the Enterprise glory shots. This is a long sequence, and this movie is usually regarded as being slowly paced, and making poor characterization, and to some degree I can understand where people are coming from with that, but as I've said elsewhere, I'm drawn to the characters even when they're in what are known as bad movies. I still watch them, and I still am rapt by them because I enjoy the actors and the characters, and when it's a good story I can really appreciate it, but I don't need it to be a good story to enjoy it. So while I do agree that this movie could have standed being cut down a little bit, this first scene is just iconic because it's the first time, if you take into the account that the series had been canceled, and I forget how many years it took. They were going to make a new series called Star Trek Phase 2, and what began as Phase 2 eventually evolved into this big screen, monumental epic, which is what they were probably going for in the vein of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And so it was the first time Trekkies, and they hadn't been calling themselves Trekkers at that point, although I'm firmly a Trekkie, but it hadn't been around for a while, and the idea of seeing the Enterprise on the big screen, Star Wars and these things were getting popular and ramping up in the social consciousness. So when they were going to approach this movie, you want to debut the ship of the line in the most beautiful, extravagant way possible, and that's what happens. In fact, some say for a little too long. But as another channel that I follow, Geekvolution, in one of their videos, Ask the Treksperts, Captain Logan and his wife, who are Star Trek fans, he pointed out that you let the music and the score of this scene, wash over you, and just sort of, I get into the brain of, not only Kirk, because he's seeing his baby once again, and the refit and looking all new and great and glorious, but also I get into the mindset of what was it like for the Star Trek fans at the time, this was a big deal, and you wanted this to be, now in hindsight, it's been out for so many years, and yeah, you can go back and say, oh, this movie just so lags and it's so, whatever. But I just think it's a tremendous scene. The music is just exquisite, and I like getting a really good look at the Enterprise. So it's the first scene I wanted to mention, and it's just really cool. The second scene I want to mention is not too long after, I don't remember how far into the movie, but the first time we see Vulcan. Spock has been on Vulcan attempting to reach the Vulcan state of Kolinar, the suppression of emotions, and there's a particular match shot that my dad, who was a Trekkie before me, and where I got my love for it and passion for it, had the original movie on VHS, and it was a full screen. They weren't doing letterbox yet and everything like that, and widescreen, and so I didn't see what you'd later see on the DVD and the Blu-ray and things of that sort. When finally I did, and the shot that will be accompanying what I'm, as I'm talking, this elegant, beautiful matte shot of Vulcan and the humongous Vulcan statues, and I think there's a planet or moon in the background in the sky, and the oranges and the reds, just a great moment. It's the first time we're back at Vulcan since the original series, and we were only there once or twice, and this was 1960s TV show money doing the special effects. So now we're seeing Vulcan on the big screen for the first time, and it just looks like what I assume every Star Trek fanboy out there, and again I use the term fanboy vehemently because I don't like the labalism thing, but if I'm going to be stuck with one, I'm going to use one I like, but because I know it's sometimes derogatorily seen, but it's the first time we're back at Vulcan, and people, it's what everyone has dreamed of, maybe it even surpasses the expectations of Trekkies, but it's just beautiful. And moving on to the third scene, very notable. I always have a habit of, whenever the motion picture is on TV, somehow or other, I always end up finding out that it's on at the same point in the movie, and that's the wormhole scene. For the time that it was made, the graphics, I don't know how they did it, whether it was early CG or just optical animated effects, but the way it's all really surreal and trippy and time slows down, it's just really a unique, everybody's talking like this. It just really harkens back to some of the 70s drug culture, surreal in films and everything like that, but also in a more, science, the idea of wormholes, I think at that point were relatively new, and even now it's still kind of new because it's really just theory, but so very unique visual scene. The next one I want to mention is when the character Leah is kidnapped by the Voyager, probe or whatever, and when finally Voyager agrees that it's got to go check out these bio whatever you want to call it, bio species inside this machine Enterprise, sends the terminology is lacking, it's a late night, but sends a probe in the form of a reconstituted, if you will, Leah, and seems to strike McCoy and Spock, I think, as potentially having some of, if it looks like Leah, sounds like Leah, maybe it has her memories and her emotions, and so they send her off with Decker because they'd had a relationship, and just a really cool visual scene, and notable because they go to like a recreation deck, and there's the point where Decker is showing the images on the wall of the history of all the ships called Enterprise, And of course, arguably for Trekkies, there are several generations left out of that, but uh, or retconned into it, maybe you could say. But I just thought it was a really cool scene because it uh, it ends up being true that there are emotions in Ilea, and they are, able to get sort of brought back out to the surface little by little. Um, the second to last scene I want to mention is after Spock's impromptu stealing of a spacesuit and going out to mind meld with the V'ger consciousness, and realizing it's total pure logic, that it's a machine, but very childlike in its limited understanding, and he sheds a tear, as he's in the sickbay bed with McCoy and Kirk looking over him, and he explains, he understands, he both idolizes in a way and pities at the same time V'ger, because all it knows is logic, and yet, in his case, he was trying to attain that. But because all it knows is logic, Spock realizes there has to be more, a deeper understanding, in order to appreciate life and creation and things of that sort. And it's like I forget who said it. Maybe Geekvolution again, maybe something I read. But at that point, the Spock from the original series is back, whereas we had sort of more robotic, less sympathetic Spock up to that point in the film. And I agree with that. Very cool, emotive moment. The final moment I'm going to mention is the Big Whopper at the end, so to speak. I love how McCoy references it after the scene happens, by asking, did we just witness the creation of a new life form? Something to that effect. And it's the moment when the Ilea probe, V'ger, has disconnected the wiring in the Voyager probe that ends up being at the heart of V'ger, what V'ger essentially is, its brain and heart, and so that they need to manually input the codes to communicate successfully with it. And the Ilea probe, because of the emotions that are still in there, her being connected to Decker, and of course Decker sort of reevaluating his station, because at this point he lost command of the Enterprise before he ever even got control of it, because Kirk, arguably used this situation to his advantage to reclaim the ship and his command. But he's reevaluated, Decker has reevaluated his station and realizes, what he really wants is to be reunited with Ilea, and it seems like this is made possible through, they just sort of blend together and become energy, and there's this great explosion of blue light and everything like that, and there are some deep and interesting concepts for the movie, and storyline wise, maybe it's not all understandable, but the overall effect I think is there, and it could have standed being cut down the running time a little bit. There's some scenes that didn't need to go on as long as they did, but overall I still can enjoy this film, and these are some of my favorite moments. So watch out for part 2, The Wrath of Khan, coming soon. Peace.